Hello, first graders. Good morning. I hope you had a terrific weekend. It's Monday, which means we're learning our new sight words, which you probably already guessed. I think that this is a good combination of some easier ones and some really tricky ones. Ready? Number one is the word ready. We are ready to pick apples. Delish. Can you think of a way to use ready in a sentence? We are ready to learn our sight words. Ready. Number two is a long one. Number two is the word country. We live in the country. Can you think of a way to use country in a sentence? The United States of America is our country. Number three is the word soil. We planted the flowers in the soil. Can you think of a way to use soil in a sentence? We used soil when we planted our pinto beans. I've heard from some of you that your pinto beans are still growing. That's exciting. Number four is the word kinds. There are many kinds of butterflies here. Can you think of a way to use kinds in a sentence? I like many kinds of cake. Whoa, just dropped it. Number five is the word earth. She covers the seeds with earth. So it could be another word for dirt or soil. Can you think of a way to use earth in a sentence? We planted our seeds in the earth. Number six is the word almost. The sentence says the apples are almost ripe. I noticed that in the word almost, there's the word most. So if you know most, you also know almost. You are almost ready for second grade. Almost. Number seven is the word covers. Pollen covers the bee. So it means it's spread all over. Could you think of a way to use covers in a sentence? I get under the covers at night. One more. Number eight is the word warms. The oven warms our apple pie. Oh, it looks delicious. Can you think of a way to use warms in a sentence? The sun warms my skin. Here are all of our sight words together. Can you think of a way to use more than one of our sight words in a sentence? The soil almost covers the seed. I used three of them. The sun warms the earth. I used two more. Can you guess what our story might be about this week? I noticed a lot of these pictures and sentences are about the outdoors for sure. And quite a few are about apples. Let's read our story this week. Our story this week is called A Tree is a Plant. Wonder what that means. What genre story do you think this is? You can probably see on the side that this is an informational text. Remember, that means it's nonfiction, and that means that it's going to give us some facts and information that are true. The essential question this week says, what happens to a tree as it grows? We learned in science about the life cycle of plants, including trees. Do you remember the first step in that life cycle? It's a seed. Bet we'll see some plant life cycles in this book. So I'm going to flip the pages and I'm not going to read it the first time. So you do your best to read it on screen. Remember, you can always pause if you need more time. Before I turn the page, the last sentence here says, but there is a part of the tree that we cannot see. What is the part of the tree that we cannot see? We learned about this in science. What part of the tree grows underground? The roots. All right, let's read A Tree is a Plant together now. I love learning about plants and trees, and a lot of what is in this story we learned about in science. A tree is a plant. A tree is the biggest plant that grows. Most kinds of trees grow from seeds, the way most small plants do. There are many kinds of trees. Here are a few of them. How many do you know? Has a maple, conifer, persimmon, palms, lemon, and willow. Willow, there's a special shout out for you. This tree grows in the country. It might grow in your yard too. Do you know what kind it is? This is an apple tree. This apple tree came from a seed. The seed was small. It grew inside an apple. Have you ever seen an apple seed? Ask an adult to help you cut up an apple in two. The seeds are in the center. They look like this. I bet you've seen apple seeds. I see them when I eat apples all the time. Most apple trees come from seeds that are planted. Sometimes an apple tree grows from a seed that falls to the ground. The wind blows leaves over the seed. The wind blows soil over the seed. All winter the seed lies under the leaves and the soil. All winter the seed lies under the ice and snow and is pushed into the ground. Spring comes, rain falls, the sun comes out and warms the earth. The seed begins to grow. This page reminds me of the book The Tiny Seed that we read, with that little seed that was floating through the air and finally grew into that giant flower. Remember that? At first, the young plant does not look like a tree. The tree is very small. It is only a stem with 2 leaves. It has no apples on it. A tree must grow before it has apples on it. Each year, the tree grows. It grows tall. In 7 years, it is so tall that you can stand under its branches. In the spring, there are blossoms on the tree. Spring is apple blossom time. Do you remember what this stage of the life cycle is called? That looks like a seedling. The blossoms last only a few days. Then they fall to the ground. Now there are green leaves on the tree. Among the leaves, there are small apples. The apples are where the blossoms were before. The apples are green, and they are almost too small for you to see. The apples grow slowly. They grow all during the spring and the summer. They're little tiny green apple buds. In the fall, they are large and ripe. They are ready to eat. We can see the apples and the leaves on the branches. We can see the branches growing out of the trunk. We can see the trunk growing out of the ground. We can see the bark of the tree. The bark covers the branches and the trunk like a coat. But there's a part of the tree that we cannot see. We cannot see the roots. They are under the ground. Some of the roots are large. Some of them are as small as hairs. The roots grow like branches under the ground. A tree could not live without roots. Roots hold the trunk in the ground. Roots keep the tree from falling when the wind blows. Roots keep the rain from washing the tree out of the ground. Roots have a lot of jobs. Roots do something more. They take water from the ground. They carry the water into the trunk of the tree. The trunk carries the water to the branches. The branches carry the water to the leaves. Hundreds and hundreds of leaves grow on the branches. The leaves make food from water and air. They make food when the sun shines. The food goes into the branches. It goes into the trunk and roots. It goes to every part of the tree. Here are some arrows showing how that works. So the water comes from the ground into the roots, to the trunk, and into the leaves. And the sun goes in the opposite direction. Goes into the leaves and then down into the rest of the tree. Fall comes and winter is near. The work of the leaves is over. The leaves turn yellow and brown. The leaves die and fall to the ground. Now the tree is bare. All winter it looks dead, but the tree is not dead. Under its coat of bark, the tree is alive. Spring comes again. Rain falls. The sun warms the earth. The tree blossoms and new leaves grow. As long as it lives, the apple tree grows. As long as it lives, the apple tree blossoms in the spring and apples grow on it. It's my favorite part. When do you like apple trees best? In the spring when they're covered with blossoms? In the summer when they are covered with leaves? In the winter when they are bare? Or in the fall when they are covered with apples? I wonder what your favorite is. Mine's definitely the spring. I love those pink apple blossoms, and they smell so good, and they're so beautiful. Wonder when you like apple trees. For our story mapping today, we're going to be in your reader's notebook on page 136. You can hit pause until you're on page 136. We have done many story maps like this before. On the top it has a space for characters and setting. And then down here is the plot, which remember is what happens in the story. In the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. Now, one thing that's a little bit tricky for a tree is a plant is characters, because there aren't a lot of characters in the story. So you could write what the story is mostly about, which I think is apple trees. I think apple trees are the main character of this story. Then write the setting, which remember is where the story takes place. Write one thing that happened in the beginning, one thing that happened in the middle, and one thing that happened in the end. Great job reading today, first graders. I know that's a bit of a long story. Good job hanging in there. So remember that you can practice your sight words a bunch of different ways. Maybe your grown-ups printed out the cards that I sent home, or maybe you can write them on sticky notes or on index cards or any other piece of paper. But remember to be practicing and start keeping an eye out for them in all the books that you're reading. See you later for more. Bye.